are listening to the Good Girl Podcast. I am Cameo King, the host of the Good Girl Podcast. If you don't know anything about the Good Girl Podcast, it is a podcast of women's confessions about our faith, flaws, femininity, and culture. So everything is on the table. We have these conversations to heal and also destigmatize the messy process of figuring out life. So we have these often taboo conversations. We bring our full selves to the table. I believe and I know that I am tasked to hold space for women. And when I say hold space for women, it is so important for us to have an outlet where we can be like unabashed, unapologetic about who we are, in our full selves, not just the highs, not just the great parts of life, but like the rough parts of life and parts of where we were just not so great to be around. And when we found out like ugly parts of our soul and how we found that out and how we were healed. And I really believe in creating a nurturing environment for that. And that's why I have these conversations weeks on end, because there are so many layers to the women that we look up to, the women that we sit next to, the women that we mentor, to our mothers, to our aunts, to our sisters. And the more we know about one another, the better we can be as a community and the better that we can be for one another. And I know when that happens, the better we are individually. So my hope, my goal, my prayer in every conversation that you are growing, whether it's, for you spiritually, emotionally, mentally. I know some of y'all done said y'all done got a free therapy session listening to the Good Girl podcast. So that there is some growth that is happening there. And I hope it's bringing you joy too. Some of the jokes, some of the laughs. I hope that it's bringing you joy as well. But overall, I hope that there is some type of healing happening and some type of affirmation happening of both your humanity and your divinity. Because you're both flesh and spirit. So I hope all of this is happening here in this space. And so this week, I think it's really appropriate to have this conversation because we have a woman, Kyona McGhee. She is extremely silly. I think I didn't know how silly she was, I think, until I heard this conversation and was playing it back. But she has a confession and she has a passion too for law. And I think this conversation is interesting as well because it showcases, again, different sides of people that we are connected to, that we sit next to, and that hold these certain positions, whether it's in our community or whether we engage with them virtually. So listen up. Here's a little bit about Kyona. Kyona McGhee is the founder of the McGhee Law Firm and self-describes as the Beyonce of Trademark Lawyers. Kyona's appetite for the law started as early as elementary school.
When I was younger, my mom actually went to prison when I was in second grade. And so she was there for 1 year. And we obviously have been reunited ever since. And it was a short stint, but I think that scenario that placed her in that position is what, lit the fire in me to even start going to law school.
And finishing law school was just the beginning for Kyona. She says her interest in law stems from simply educating communities on knowing their rights in order to produce better outcomes.
9 times out of 10, people have a great opportunity to not be incarcerated, but because they don't know their rights, as soon as the police come on the scene, they end up incriminating themselves in a way where it's entirely almost impossible to now get them out of the situation. So if they just knew the rights that they had, we wouldn't be, fighting a lot of the issues that we're fighting right now. But because we are exploited, because we don't know, it's a terrible, terrible situation. So I just wanted to do my part in trying to help people learn those things without having to literally go to law school to figure it out.
Kyona is also the lead attorney at Trademark My Stuff, a company that protects small businesses through federal trademarks. Trademark My Stuff was birthed out of Kyona's personal run-in with the law and a now defunct company.
While running that company, I discovered that it was time for me to try to trademark it, and come to find out it was already trademarked by somebody else. And so eventually we had to shut the whole company down because I'm like, there's no way I need to keep, producing all this content, investing all this time and money into a brand that I don't own, and that somebody else can come and knock on the door at any point and say, hey, thanks for all of this great stuff you've done. Now it's all mine.
Despite her love for law and justice, Kyona made it clear that this passion will always come in second in the priorities of her life.
Trademarks are cool. Educating people about the law is fun and nice. And at first I thought I wanted to be like the attorney that prosecutes every wrong cop in the world, like all that great stuff. And that would be, I think I would get a thrill out of all of that. Trust me, I'd enjoy that more than a whole lot of other things. However, I think truly at the end of the day, my greatest contribution will be our kids. And that's because they see me behind all of this stuff that I can create for y'all.
So now you know a little bit about the Beyonce of Trademark Lawyers. I love that. I want you guys to make sure you are following us on Instagram. Make sure you are following us on Twitter and have liked our page on Facebook. We create this community not just for the podcast, but it goes so much deeper. This is just like a space for, like, it's a movement, y'all. It really is, for us to really get free, for us to walk in our freedom, in the fullness of who we are, the good and the not so good, the learning, the growing, the evolution. So I want to make sure that you guys stay connected with the movement. Also, you can drop your email. And also, we always are accepting confessions. So feel free to DM us. Feel free to shoot us a quick email about your confession if you want to come on, or if it's something you like, hey, Cameo, y'all need to talk about this. I know a lot of women that's going through this, and we really need to, and again, y'all, no topic is off limits. Everything is on the table, right? We getting this full healing. Anyway, listen up. Here is Kyona's confession. All right, so Kyona, I'm so excited that you are back on the Good Girl Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
This is your second time. You've been rocking with us for a minute, and I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me.
Because we had Kyona before Kyona became a lawyer, before Kyona went to law school. So
yeah, like 6 years ago. I think this was 6 years. My daughter wasn't even 1 yet. So yeah, it was a long time.
Wow. So I'm excited to have you on. And I just want to hop right into your confession. I think what you're going to share, a lot of people are going to connect with this, especially in the environment that we're currently in, the instability, the uncertainty, where everything around you is shaking.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So I'm just going to toss it right to you and ask you the question that I ask everyone that comes on here. Is what is your confession, Kyona?
My confession is
drum roll.
I am losing control fast.
Girl.
Yes.
Like control. Like when you're driving a car, you're losing control.
Losing control. And it's the scariest thing, yet the most peaceful thing I could ever go through.
So when you say I'm losing control, what does that encompass? So is it with your business? Is it emotionally? Is it with is it everything? What is it?
It's everything. So I've been a strong advocate in my entire life as I can remember, since being an adult, my entire adult life, of trying to be in control of everything that I can control. If I can control it, I want to, because I want to make sure things end up the way that I want them to. And so even as far as finances or opportunities or who's driving, I want to drive. So when I'm ready to go, I can go. You know what I mean? Like every little bitty thing, I want to be in control. And I think it dealt with a lot of, or it is as a result of a lot of instability as a child, to where now as an adult, everything that I can control, I want to control, because I didn't feel like somebody controlled it enough back when they were supposed to, basically. And so now as an adult, these past, several years as I've been adulting, I've been trying to make sure I can control everything. In this season, none of that. It's not going down like that. And I am losing all control, mentally, emotionally, physically. I'm pretty sure I done put on pounds that weren't supposed to be there. Like everything is just going left, where I'm like, what is happening, Lord? And he's like, you were never in control. Like, I let you think that for a little bit, but here's the season where I shift you and let you know that you are at my mercy. and you are at my grace. So it's equally as scary, but at the same time, I'm in control and you just got to sit on back there. I don't even think I'm in the passenger seat at this point. I think I'm in the back or the trunk, and I'm nowhere near guarding this thing. Like
Not the trunk.
I'm in the trunk. I can't see nothing. I can't see where this is going. I don't know how this is gonna end. You know?
Not the trunk. So that's funny. So what did control look like you prior to this? Because I think a lot of us are or we have been. I think the season has been interesting for everyone, but there are things that we intentionally did, like you mentioned, to ensure certain things wouldn't happen, to ensure that we would have control. And I thought it was very important that you connected it to, something you experienced when you were younger. And so I have it's kind of like two questions in one, but first I'm gonna let you answer the first one about what did control look like for you prior to this?
It meant being very intentional about everything that I did to make sure I got the results that I wanted. And whether that was I'd only be around certain people that I enjoyed being around to make sure I don't have a negative experience, or all the way to I'm going to make sure that I work harder than anybody else to make sure that I get this position that I want, or I end up at the end of law school in this position so that I can go out and do this. Like I went through all the steps necessary to make sure this thing unfolds the way that I want it to. And if it doesn't, it has to be like something wild and crazy that makes it go left, because otherwise I'm going to make sure by all means that I'm positioned this way, or this opportunity turns out this way, or I end up, only doing the things that I want to do, or that only being in situations that I can control. And it worked all the way until 2020. And then now I'm like, what's happening?
It feels like I feel like I just see you on the top or back of a car screaming, "What's happening?" What's the car's going down? And so
back windshield.
Everybody just pointing and looking. Y'all see that?
Exactly. She's losing it.
So when you controlled these situations, these circumstances, and you got the result that you wanted to get, did you attribute that to your work? Did you attribute that to, I did all this? Not necessarily with the hand of God. I know you are a believer, but it's like, if you just put in work, then it's going to happen.
No, I think I've always believed that me and God were like a partnership in this thing. Like, and as long as I do what you told me to, you're going to make sure it ends up the way I want it to. You know what I mean? Like, I know it wasn't me. I know it wasn't because I deserved it, or there wasn't a more qualified candidate or whatever. And I need you to make sure this turns out the way I need it to. And then he was always like, I got your back. I'll make sure it happens. You good. And make sure that it happened. And then now he was like, yeah, not so much. Actually, no, we ain't doing that no more. And I'm like, wait, this was working out good for us. And now he's like, no. And so the partnership is over. It's not a partnership.
Not a partnership like you think. It's not a
dictatorship for real.
Right. Again, and I think it's important, Kyona, that you mentioned, you connected this back to a childhood experience. Was it hard for you to come to that conclusion?
No, I think that I've seen a lot. And I think that all of us have, emotions and issues and conclusions that we've arrived at as an adult. And we have to go back and figure out, how do we get here? Either something happened or didn't happen that has brought all of us to the point that we're at, right? And so I think me realizing, why are you like this? Doesn't take that hard to figure out. You want to be in control because there were moments that you didn't have control and you didn't like how that felt. To me, it was as simple as that. And I was like, okay, so how do I fix that? I have to realize that there's going to be some things that you can't control, and you need to learn how to be comfortable even in those circumstances of not having control, still being able to trust God in moments where you are not in control.
So what does not in control look like? You said you're losing control. What does losing control look like for you right now? You're on the back of I don't know, Ford pickup truck, screaming out the window, hair blown. What does that look like?
A truck that has a Confederate flag hanging out. It seems real dangerous. You know what I mean? It seems
real
like
dangerous.
Real dangerous ride around here. And for me, it looks like you having no idea what the end result is going to be. You have no idea where this destination is going. You have no idea if it's going to feel good. matter of fact, all things are pointing to the opposite. Everything is pointing to the fact that it's probably not going to go the way you want. And that to me is like crazy, where I'm like, oh, how do I get out of this situation? You know, our first instinct is to run. I want out, get me out. I don't want to do this, or to try to change the situation for your good. But when you don't have control and all you get to do is just sit for the ride, it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling whatsoever. But I feel like, again, this season has just forced me to put on my big girl panties and learn how to still trust God and believe that even when things look terrible or feel like they couldn't, you know, happen at a worse time or whatever, that he's still God, he's still as worthy, he still loves you just as much. He's still going to make sure that even though these things were meant for evil, that they're still going to work out for good, even when it feels like you're locked in the trunk. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you might still arrive at Disney World, even though we don't usually take this route. You know what I'm saying? It might still end up for your good. So just trying to make sure that you can still keep that in mind, even when it doesn't feel like it. And it's not, again, it's not a comfortable feeling whatsoever, but it's a learning process for sure.
So can you give me an example of something that you lost control of?
Yeah. So I didn't plan on sharing this on the show, but since we're here, you know,
Safe space, non-judgmental zone.
It's okay. So less than a month ago, my husband and I experienced a miscarriage, and it was something that was obviously completely out of our control. We obviously have two healthy, beautiful children, and I'm so grateful, you know, for them, boy and a girl already. And in that moment of this circumstances happening to you or being thrust upon you, and your first question is like, why? Why, what and why, what is happening and why is this happening? And why am I not in control about how this ends or how this goes or whatever? You cannot do anything about it. This is happening to you, period. And you just have to sit back and then watch it happen. And it was traumatizing, to say the least, but it also made me cling to God. I'm not only going to trust you when things look great for me, because how shallow would that be? To only be able or only want to worship you and say, I'll trust you when things look great or things look promising. It's easy to say, I'll trust you when things look promising. It's easy to say, I'll trust you when things are, you know, working out in your favor. But trust is really trust when it doesn't look like it's going to work out in your good. And I'm still not going to budge on my position with you. I'm still going to stand with you. I'm still going to worship you. I'm still going to praise you. I'm still going to get through this. And I'm not going to forsake, you know, my relationship with you because this happened on your watch. Like, you let it happen. You allowed this, you know, you allowed us to experience this. And I may never understand why, but that's not going to hinder my relationship with you.
Just to put this in context, and I know, you know, when we talked off air, and I just want to publicly say again, you know, I'm sorry for your loss. Just knowing,
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, knowing the heaviness that comes with it, and how it's a very private grieving process, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So, and knowing, you know, not experiencing it myself, but hearing the stories of other women that have to go through this or that have gone through this on top of everything else that could be going on in your life. Because earlier in our conversation, Kyona, you said that everything is going wrong or everything is out of, so this is just one of many things that are happening. And so when I don't know if it was like a domino effect, but when everything started to just like, I don't know who you think you are. I'm going to do what I want to do. Like when.
Exactly. And it's so crazy because some things are like, business is riding high. Okay. We've had the best 2 months in business we've ever had. We've made more in 2020, and it's May 29th. We've made more this year than we made in all of 2019. And it's just like, yeah, I'm not complaining about that, but let me tell you about everything else. Okay. And so it's kind of like, it's not like, okay, every single box in my life is going left. It's just like everything that I thought I could control, my body, my home, where I go, where I don't go, how or where, you know, I play with or entertain my children, or, you know, using a trip as an escape or whatever. I can't use any or control any of these things anymore. So we do all of this to have the freedom. I think entrepreneurship, a huge part of entrepreneurship is wanting freedom. And so then you attain that and it's stripped away from you, all because of a worldwide pandemic. And there's nowhere you can fly to get away from it. Nowhere. Like, you can't be like, oh, Michigan tripping, I'm out, I'm going to I'm going to Florida. No, it's there too. Oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna go to Punta Cana. Oh, no, can't go there too. They shut that down. Like, there's no, you can't run from it. You can't go anywhere. There's no amount of money that's gonna make you exempt from this situation. So sit down until we say get up. It's like you're in timeout and you're like, how did I get here? I did everything I was supposed to do to not be here, and here I am, here in timeout. And I'm like, Lord, what is this? Okay. And
sit down.
Yeah, sit down and learn how to be still. And that's so foreign to me because I always want to be, you know, doing something. And now you can't do what you want to do. You got to sit down and be still and shut up.
So what does this feel like to you? Like losing control, especially for someone who, you know, in a sense had control in their front pocket, you know, was a partner with control, you know, with control, woke up with control. Like that was your thing. That was your ace boom coon, like all of this. So what does it feel like to lose control? Because I asked this question because I know this is exactly where so many people are who have had control, like when literally everything, and not just, you know, grown folks. I'm thinking about young folks. I think maybe like our mothers, our grandmothers is like, baby, you'll be fine. But for our generation, I think it's different because we work in a different way and we work to prevent something like this. So how does it feel? And what did that, and it, like, were you anxious? Was it nerve-wracking? Were you like denying, like, oh, we'll be fine in like a week?
No, it has been the most traumatizing yet liberating experience I've ever had, because I feel like all of us, I mean, especially with the things going on, you know, with racial tension and our faith and people being attacked left and right, spiritually or emotionally right now, we could all be on the verge of a mental breakdown, but for some merciful reason, we're not. Like, we're not. And so all of these things that are happening that could cause the average person to truly break, you may have bended, but you ain't broke yet. And that to me is equally as inspiring as this whole situation, equally as traumatizing as this whole situation has been. It's kind of like, as the trauma increases, so does the liberation, where I'm like, okay, well, if I got over that and didn't die, what else could happen? You know what I mean? I don't want to figure it out, Lord. I'm not trying to ask for no more plagues. I'm not trying to ask for no more stuff. I'm just saying that if you've covered me through all of this, I'm still, you know, that much more inspired and that much more, I don't even know what the best term is, but just that much more willing to trust whatever he is doing and whatever he has planned for me, because none of this stuff has destroyed us yet. Like, we've literally been locked in the house for 2 months and nobody has killed each other yet. Like, that's grace. You know what I mean? I love my husband to death, but I'm sure there's some marriages that won't make it out of this, and not because they didn't truly love each other, but because they were already on bad terms before this, and now this has brought them to another point that just broke them, you know. And I'm just grateful for the things that are still solid, even if they, you know, have been through hell and back. They're still solid. Like, our kids are still healthy. We didn't lose anybody to this tragedy. We haven't, you know, there's some things where you're like, yeah, you complaining, but none of these things have happened. So as equally as traumatizing as losing control is, it's equally as liberating to know you went through all of that and you're still here and you're still able to thrive. You're still able to smile. And it's all because God has not changed. And that's the point that I just like hold on to. Like, although everything has been turned inside out, the one thing that remains the same is the one thing that's the most important. And that's just him.
And so what does liberation look like for you then?
To me, I thought it was being in full control. If you would have asked me that, you know, last year, being liberated just meant having as many options to choose from as you wanted to, and not having to succumb to what somebody else wanted you to do or had to do, or, you know, you had the freedom to do whatever it is you felt, and you were going to make sure that that's fine. all of that's been stripped away from me, and I've had to find a new definition of being liberated. And liberated now is just like, before I could control it. Right now I can't control it, and I'ma still be good. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, no, that's a new concept for me, a whole new concept, where before, if I couldn't control it, I wasn't sure that I was gonna be good if I couldn't control it, which is why I needed to control it. But now I can't control it, and I'm still gonna be just fine. And that to me is just like, that's a much stronger concept mentally than before. Because of course, if you controlled it, you make sure you're good. But what if you couldn't control it? Would you be equally as sure that you'd still be good? And now I can say that confidently, I will.
Would you say that also a part of your liberation is a new dependence on God?
For sure. For sure. Because it's proven that I don't have the strength that I thought I had, or the little control that I thought I had via, finances, or over my own body, or just the faith in believing something wouldn't happen to me, and then it did. And it's like, see, I don't know that I consciously thought I was immune to it, but I had no reason to believe that it would happen. And when it does, it's like, oh, you are human. Oh, like, not that I thought I was like not human, but I thought I had a different, life experience that I was going through, that I didn't think that part would happen to me, though. You know what I mean? And so now that it does puncture you and it hits you in a place of your heart that you didn't even know was there, it's kind of like, wait, this is a whole nother new level of pain that you didn't even know happens, and this puncture makes you realize that you are not immune, And so, yeah, I definitely agree that it has taken me to a new level of dependency on him, for sure.
I want to highlight some things that you're saying, like how you mentioned grace, and especially if you are a person of faith. And I think it is a narrative that flows throughout the faith community. I think it's implicit. I don't think it's, explicit, but I think it's this idea that we will always be protected from things, and we are somewhat immune to things because we serve God.
Right.
And,
right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was like, go ahead.
Because I think what a lot, unfortunately, how we've been taught over the years about the gospel, we have been taught, unfortunately, like having his favor has, made us be able to speak this into our life, speak that into our life, and that basically, like, this whole Bible is about us. Like, this whole experience is about us, me. I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna do this, blah, 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 blah. And it's really like, no, if you really read the text, it says take up your cross, partner. That means this thing is gonna be heavy. That means this thing is gonna be uncomfortable. It's going to cost you. It's gonna weigh on you heavily. If you really look at what this thing is telling us this life is gonna be like as a follower of Christ, it does not say that it's going to be a glamorous walk in the park, by no means. Quite the opposite. But he's promised to be there with us as we go through it, And so just being able to recognize that, and that, well, again, was something that has been taught to me in this season, where it's just like, when sufferings come, like, take joy and understand that I told you this was going to happen. This is it. This is, and I'm not to say that Christians aren't supposed to have like great lives, but they're not supposed to be surprised by the sake of suffering, or, something that happens to us and we're like, oh, why is this happening to me? Dude, they did way worse to Jesus. Like, calm down. You're not being crucified, are you? Like,
you're not being beat alive.
No, didn't nobody spit on you, did they? Like, calm down. But
what would you tell your in control younger self?
You're not going to get anywhere by controlling the narrative, because at that point you can only take this narrative as far as you can see. You can only take this life as far as things that you can conceptualize based upon your control. So you'll never be able to enter rooms that you have no control over. You'll never be able to influence people that you have no control over. You'll never be able to, do any of these things because you don't have that much control. You're only one person and you don't got that much influence. So what you do have isn't going to take you very, very far if you don't ever learn how to lose control and be comfortable, not comfortable like make a nest there, but at least know how to still, get up and go to bed and flourish in the midst of chaos and not being in control. You will still be able to be just fine, and you won't be able to, grow past that until you do learn how to flourish without having to be in control.
Thank you so much, Kyona. That was like perfect. Based on what you shared, is there anything else you want to add, or maybe a question you want to ask, or maybe something I forgot?
I don't know. I don't have anything that I want to ask. I just want everybody to be like, I don't want anybody in this season to feel like they are alone, or that they're going through something that everyone else isn't going through also. And that's not to say like, yep, everybody lost their grandmother to COVID. All of us didn't, but all of us are going through a shared traumatizing experience of 2020. Like they should call 2020 trauma. Like they should just rename it. Like
I'm like, is this the season finale? When will this end?
When will this end? Where do we live? You know that gospel song, I'm going home on the morning train? Like, I feel like that's all I be wanting to sing. I'm going home. I'm going home. When they be like, pack your bags, let's go. I'm going home on the morning train because this right here is crazy. But just don't ever feel like you're the only person going through it this season. All of us are like, what the heck is happening? All of us are wondering, is this the Lord? I mean, what chapter of Revelations is this today? Like, we all are going through the same exact emotions, and you are not alone. I don't care how cute her Instagram look. I don't care. Baby girl is struggling too. We all are in 2020 together. No matter what. So don't feel alone. Like, do not feel alone, but learn how to depend on him and, find your comfort in him, because he is remaining the God that he's always been, even in this season.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.
No problem, girl. Thank you for having me.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that segment with Kyona. Thank you so much for listening to the Good Girl Podcast. As always, there are ways you can support this movement. First and foremost, make sure you are subscribed to the podcast. You get them immediately when you're subscribed. Make sure you are also following us on all social media. And you can also drop your email on our page, thegoodgirlpodcast.com. And last but certainly not least, we have product. Believe in the good product. We have a really nice sweatshirt, really nice like crop top. Well, the crop top is coming out. Working on it. Going to try it on. If you follow us on the gram, you'll probably see me try it on. You can tell me if you like it, love it, or love it. No hating it. And just different items to support this movement. Because again, it is a movement. I'm not doing this just because I am creating and holding space for women to be their full selves, the evolution of themselves, and really destigmatizing this messy process of life. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you for listening. And I want you to have a wonderful weekend, a wonderful day, a wonderful week. I love y'all. And please continue to believe in the good.